I came to Cross Lanes in 2003, and I knew that part of our DNA was going to be planting churches, because a healthy New Testament church is a multiplying church.
In 2012, we planted New Heights Church, being sent out from Cross Lanes Baptist Church.
When we planted in 2015, I remember just feeling excited about planting a new church.
By the grace of God, we planted Christ Covenant Church just a couple weeks ago, and the Lord has blessed it already tremendously. We've got a great group of people, and we really just hope to be a church we want to be a church plant that plants other churches.
By God's grace, Pastor Will and I became acquainted through West Virginia State University in a campus ministry there originally. And that's where we first met. And then a little bit later on, by God's grace, we were able to get connected, and Cross Lanes was able to sponsor New Heights. And we've just been blessed to see how the Lord has continued to work through planting other churches and raising up leaders. And we know that the best days of New Heights Church and all of our sister churches are ahead, and we want to be a multiplying influence all across the Mountain State and continue to plant churches and be faithful to God's call to the mission.
And one of the things that I was advised at the beginning was to build into the DNA of a church at the beginning what you want to see at the end. And so we knew deep down in the vision of this church in the early stages that we wanted to be a church that would be a multiplying church, a church planted to plant more churches that would then plant churches. And so we began to develop leaders, and one of our prayers for every church planter that we sent out was that they would also become a sending pastor as well. One of those men that we sent out was Ryan Navy, who's now the pastor of River Valley Church. We sent him to Huntington to plant our Huntington campus in 2015, which evolved into an autonomous church. And we've seen God's grace as we release those people in love and joy, but also in some pain of releasing people, but to see that come to fruition in an established church in Huntington and then a multi-generational legacy as well.
One of the first things I noticed about Pastor Will was his mindset and his mentality to be kingdom first. Whenever I came on staff in 2014, the plan was always for us to roll off and take people from New Heights, Milton, and go to Huntington. It blew my mind that Pastor Will would lovingly send people to Huntington. He would allow them to leave and bless them to leave his congregation and go to Huntington. Whenever I saw that from Pastor Will, I knew that I wanted to have that same mentality myself. So before we even really got started in 2015, in my mind and my heart, I decided to myself that we would do the exact same thing that New Heights Milton did. And so we were able to send 20 people to Asheville, Kentucky with Pastor Joe to plant Christ Covenant Church. As a sending pastor myself, it's joyful and it's painful. It's painful to send people, but it's also joyful to see a brand new church being planted. So for us as a church in the future, my prayer and my hope and my vision is that River Valley Church continues to be a church planting church.
I felt called to plant a church, and the first thing I did was seek out opportunity to meet with some wise people who knew what they were doing with church planting. And so I hooked up with Ryan, and ended up meeting Will from the church here, and they really just guided me and helped me along the way, gave me an opportunity to grow and to learn, taught me a little bit about church planting, and really kind of took me under their wing, which is what I needed, what I was looking for. We want to continue the legacy that we've seen through New Heights and through some of these other churches that we've been involved with throughout the process. And so we hope to do exactly what you guys have done for us one day, and to have people up on stage in a commissioning service and to send them out. We want to be a church that has an impact in the community of Ashland, Kentucky, because that's where we are. But we also want to have an impact all throughout the world, and we believe that we do that through church planting. And honestly, our people can learn a lot from what you guys have done, from the work that you guys have labored over, and really we are a result of what of your faithfulness to God. And so we're grateful for what you've done for us, and we hope to continue the work that the Lord began in you and that you have began in us, all by God's grace.
Paul writes to Timothy, "You then, my child, be strengthened by the grace that is in Christ Jesus. And what you have heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to faithful men, who will be able to teach others also.